Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C Tribe. We love you also in Canada, but still just know when we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August 2nd, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I was reading a little scripture in the Bible today, and I was reading about Noah.
Uh-oh.
I was trying to see if he had a phone number in there or anything, because I think he might need to send that art by and pick me up. It's been raining down here for a couple of days.
That's funny. All this time, Noah had a helicopter, and people were still trying to get on that boat. Big C guy has a lot of mysterious ways. They say the Bible is one of the most mysterious books out there. We'll find if it can match some of what's happening in the sports universe. All the talk yesterday about the Ohio State Buckeyes and their good old boy, Urban Meyer. Man, when I saw the blood on the lady's hand, I know it could be dramatic, but think about it. They had the lady bleeding, and he and his wife still didn't go to the authorities. I also want to say, with Tiger Woods back in the swing of things, having a good time swinging the golf clubs around. Some good news, Big C, in the sports universe. We talked about it just yesterday. I think it was on Big C Sports that said Tiger and Phil should make their event a holiday event, where them good old boys are going to start doing their things on holiday weekend. So we have a lot to cover in the sports universe, but I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, I understand with that Escalade, it's about as big as Noah's Ark. You might want to get a lot of people getting on the Escalade so you guys can all, I don't know if it's a flotation Escalade, Big C. Maybe that's something Cadillac can work on. Your thoughts?
Well, we have to get some pontoons and some airbags and put underneath it, Charlton.
Yeah.
At the rate we have water falling back here, I mean,
yeah.
I would love for it to be falling in California at the rate that it is here, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
To save all those great people out there in the Golden State, to get rid of a lot of that devastation that's going on. I mean, we've had a deluge, 2 consecutive days of continuous rain.
Wow.
And that's something that's needed out on the West Coast in a desperate way, Charlton, and not making light of the horrid situation that's going on out there. But it would be a great relief, you know, if we could find a way to switch the weather pattern to get it out there in California and drop some rain out there on those horrific fires that they're having.
Yeah, that would be true. I mean, up in Yosemite, they're flying. They call that the airplane fire retardant over Yosemite National Park. They're flying up in the Sierra foothills, and we've had them in Los Angeles over the years, Northern California Bay Area, now Northern Central California, which is the town of Redding, about 3 hours drive north of San Francisco, about 2 hours north of Sacramento. We know a lot of firefighters, and I just want to say, for all the people who are firefighters and they come to put out fires, and we hear about the military, how they go off to war to defend this country, I have nothing but respect for firefighters. When there's a fire, they tell people to leave so they can go in and save people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is what the first responders do, Charlton. They put other people in front of their own safety. They go in and they try to save the belongings of others, Charlton, and many of these people lose what they have in their plight to save homes and land of others.
Yeah.
You think not just about the firefighters, Charlton, but think about the hospital workers that are up in the Northern California region, the nurses and the doctors who have to go to work to take care of patients that are in the hospital, all the hospital staffers. They have homes in the wake of these fires that are going up there, Charlton, and many of them have been left homeless.
Yeah.
But they, in their mind, just like the first responders, the firefighters, Charlton, they have a greater calling, and that is to help others. That's the American way.
Yeah.
Not to knock down part of our society, Charlton, but to go out and help. And I think so many people in America could learn so much from first responders. When you talk about having motivational speakers, whether it's to a sports team, Charlton, whether it's to a social event or whatever, bring in a first responder.
Yeah.
Let someone speak to you who puts themselves second, Charlton, as far as caring for other people's personal belongings and personal health.
Yeah, I remember.
This is what first responders are trained to do, Charlton. These are unselfish people. Probably the most unselfish people we have in the United States and throughout the world.
Yeah.
Because all they try to do is save the lives and property, Charlton, of other people.
Yeah, that reminds me back in, it was I want to say back in the 90s, they had in the Bay Area, it's called the Oakland Hills Fire. And if you've ever been in that part of Northern California, just east of San Francisco, there's a lot of hills where you may have a house that doesn't have a backyard, but they built it on a deck that may have a 100-foot drop behind it. So now imagine the firefighters trying to put out fires in those conditions, and they don't have a backyard to run around and try to bring a water hose because it might be a 50 or 100-foot drop. You see the same situations in Los Angeles, and what happens is the topsoil is burned off. So when they eventually get to the fires to put out, now you have the rains come, and then you have the mudslide. So I just put a lot of respect for firefighters, people that put their life on the line to help other people. And speaking of that, I know I still want to just touch a little bit more of what happened in college football, because I think it's a teaching moment, and I don't know how many times we need a teaching moment, Big C, but I still hear guys that, let's just bring out some names, and people don't have to agree with it, but I followed football since I was a little boy. The first game I really recall was Notre Dame USC at the Coliseum. I think USC was down like 28-0 at halftime. John McKay, I think they had Anthony Davis was a running back, and came out, returned the second half kickoff for a touchdown, and I think USC won like 55-28 or something like that. I was a little boy, but I was hooked. I just can't tell you how important that is to shaping the lives of young people. But Big C, we can't say that's everything Urban Meyer could have done better. What's the message for the next school that it's going to happen? Somebody else is going to be hit with a scandal because they concealed information today. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, what's the message for the next school, Charlton?
Yeah.
I mean, the message has always been the same. I mean, we've seen this over the decades. Though the big boys can cover up scandals. Let me tell you what's going on at Ohio State, okay?
Yeah.
You have to be realistic. You haven't heard anything from Bob Delaney, the commissioner of the Big Ten. Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
You haven't heard anything from Smith, the athletic director of Ohio State. You haven't heard from Kirk Herbstreit, who's Ohio State alumnus and ESPN broadcaster.
Yep.
You haven't heard from Chris Fowler. Both of these men are advocates of Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
But what's going on in Ohio right now in Columbus, Charlton? Let's be realistic. You got some big-time boosters meeting with the athletic director and the president.
Yeah.
This is what's going on in Ohio State. We're talking about guys who will toss $1 million around like everybody else will toss $100 bill.
Yep.
Okay, this is what's going on, and everybody's going to sit around and say, okay, what can we do to try to make this right? We can't correct it, but what can we kind of do to try to make this right? What is the financial pitfall that we have here? What can we come up with financially, package-wise, to make this seem appeasing, where there be no charges pressed and everybody can move on with their life? This is what's going on in Ohio State. You got some people, Charlton, putting somewhere together between $3 and $8 to $10 million to make this go away in every legal way that they can. Not only that, Charlton, is that they're going to pull this thing, Bob Delaney, Warren Smith, and the chancellor at Ohio State, to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give Urban Meyer an NFL-type treatment, okay? We're going to give him a 3 to 4 game suspension. This is what's going to occur. There's going to be a 3 to 4 game suspension on Urban Meyer, because if he was going to be fired, he'd have been fired already. Right now, what they're doing is trying to negotiate out to save face, because college football kicks off in 44, 45 days for Ohio State.
Yeah.
Training camp starts tomorrow. Ohio State is ranked number 3 in the coaches poll. Urban Meyer at Ohio State, I believe, is something like 73-8 as a head coach since being there. Won a national championship, won 3 Big Ten titles. This is something that is hard to turn your back on in the landscape of college football now. To get a powerhouse and keep it dominant and have a coach that has charisma, magnetism, and can recruit, this is what you want. So these boosters to put together anywhere between $3 and $10 million, Charlton, and negotiate out a 3 to 4 game suspension for Urban Meyer. Watch in the next week. If he hasn't been fired by the end of the day, Charlton, this is what will come into play.
Well, it seems like if they remember what happened down, I know it's a different contrast. It's a stark comparison, so I'm not trying to make light of it. But when we had that massacre down in Florida, those kids that were massacred at
Stoneman
Douglas High School, it was all over the news for the first maybe week or two. Have we heard of it since? We haven't heard of it. That was horrific. We had everyone talking about gun control, how we're going to find a way to make sure we keep these kids safe. We're going to find a way to end this. Now, that's when you talk about someone losing their lives. People can bounce back from domestic violence, sexual assault. They don't bounce back from having their lives ended by a gunman on campus. And just like everything else in media, people tend to have a short memory. I think for the fact that Urban Meyer even has the answer for this, because he's not the one that did it, I guess Title IX has some rules that you cannot hide evidence if you know about it. And people yesterday were all saying, well, how could he know? How could he know?
Well, hell, Charlton, they'd have fired every coach in Michigan State if that was the case. This is the atmosphere of the Big Ten. Okay, as I said, Tom Delaney, the commissioner of the Big Ten. We know that D'Antonio, the head coach at Michigan State, where they've had an environment of sexual and physical misconduct from his players, Charlton, but they say they handle it in-house. Tom Izzo, the head coach of the basketball team in Michigan State, same type of scenario, Charlton, where they say they handle it in-house. They have all these police reports. This is the climate of the Big Ten. You talked about Nebraska's football program. You brought up the late Lawrence Phillips, Charlton.
Yeah.
That was the climate at Nebraska even before they got into the Big Ten. We've seen Penn State with Joe Paterno. This is the climate of that conference, Charlton. And when you think about it, it's the big boys in the conference. It's the power teams in the conference. Those teams that generate the most revenue. Michigan State is right up there behind Michigan in revenue. Nobody's ahead of Ohio State. Penn State's right up there at the top, Charlton. So when you think about those three teams in the Big Ten, you know, you're talking about three teams, Charlton, that's probably generating 2/5, if not 50%, of all the conference's television revenue.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic about that. You're not trying to cut off the head of the horse that's winning the race or the goose that lays the golden egg.
Yeah.
When you look how long that environment was allowed to fester.
Yeah.
You look at Michigan State. These incidents at Michigan State, Charlton, go back several seasons. Not even before Urban Meyer's incidents occurred.
Yeah.
And there's been no backlash at Michigan State even after Larry Nassar. That's why I say at Ohio State is that people are trying to figure out, how do we come up with a settlement? Look at Jameis Winston when he was at Florida State.
Yeah.
And he had the sexual assault allegations. The school paid the young lady $1 million and say, okay, we're sorry for your pain and anguish, but here's $1 million. Will that suffice for a while?
Wow.
Okay, so they did that. And so I see the same thing here at Ohio State. They're going to come and say, okay, the coach was removed. He was fired 2 years ago. Okay?
Yeah.
This incident that occurred 2 years ago, we fired him. And yes, there's photographic evidence and all of that. Could more have been done? Yes. But we're going to sanction this coach. We're going to slap him on the hand to let him know that we have zero tolerance going forth.
Yeah.
Zero tolerance going forth. Even though you've tolerated this, Urban, for over a decade, from this point on, there'll be zero tolerance. And when he was at Utah, Charlton, it was a small program out in the Mountain West at the time, I believe. No one knew what was going on. No one cared because they were not a major conference.
Yeah.
But when he went to Florida, look at Urban's history at Florida, Charlton, with himself and his players.
Yeah.
Look at the criminal blog at the University of Florida when Urban Meyer was the head coach.
At least 40 times.
And this coach came from Florida with him, Charlton.
Yeah.
He kept the guy around because he was a tremendous recruiter, allegedly, okay? Players were going to Ohio State regardless.
Yeah.
They were going to show up. If you offered a scholarship, they would be there.
Yeah.
But Urban Meyer right now has boosters negotiating a deal for him to keep him on the staff, to get him suspended for a couple games, to pay off this young lady so that she won't have any hardship. And, you know, because she was separated from Smith at the time when this last assault began.
Yeah, he was stalking
he
her.
Broke out her window one time in the parking lot after a game. So think about this, Charlton. Where were the campus police?
Yeah.
When he broke out the window of the car in the parking lot. All the other coaches' wives around watching, not just Urban's wife, the entire coaching staff's wife. Mark Foreman, who was the head coach of Texas.
Yeah.
He was on that staff.
Wow.
So he was sitting there, his wife was sitting there watching it. You think about everybody that's on the staff now that were there. Their wives were watching it. So don't blame it all on Urban.
Yeah.
Don't blame it all on Urban's wife. That's what's going to be a part of the negotiation. Everybody dropped the ball, Charles.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, everyone dropped the ball.
The campus police.
Yeah.
They're paid to be police, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they turned their back on the incident.
That's incredible because we know it's happening every 20 seconds in this country. Some woman is dealing with some type of assault situation, and it really is something that I hope that we can get in front of. And I know we always say that sports will galvanize our society, and it will. It's not always going to be easy, though. That's the thing we got to look at. So with Urban Meyer, has he ever done anything himself? Not that we know of. Anyone can be accused of anything. We don't know if he's ever been accused. I think he's been accused of not saying anything because, and then to give the guy a job that's doing it where a guy who goes out and gets a free steak dinner or a free car, like I think it was Maurice Claret, then they want to lose their scholarship. But beating up this guy's wife, a 10-year history of it, and you're still giving him a pay raise, I know he's making more money in his last job at Ohio State than he made at Florida. So if this is going on 10 years, he got a pay raise while he was still beating up his wife. Now, I want to contrast that with I still heard today. I heard some former players from the Dallas Cowboys, of all teams, saying, well, we shouldn't be pulling Dak Prescott into this thing because Jerry Jones is opening his mouth. He should just shut up. But at the same time, there's more people still talking about anathema to take a knee during the flag to bring attention to sexual assault, racism, and domestic violence. And they still want to let coaches and players and owners off the hook. I don't know how we can fix that because people tend to be tunnel vision. Bixie, your thoughts?
Well, let me tell you what happens in this, Charlton. There's a street saying called big bank, little bank.
Yeah.
Big bank always wins.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing in this, whether it's in the NFL, whether we're seeing it in college football. Those who have money can withstand anything. It's like going to court as a public citizen.
Yeah.
If you can't afford a private attorney, a high-end private attorney, and you're relying on a public defender, your chances of winning are about 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
Period. But if you got that high-priced lawyer, that Brooks Brothers suit walking in there, $3,000 draped over his shoulders every day,
yeah,
your chances of winning are 95% now.
Yeah.
It just flips.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at in this scenario. Urban Meyer's big bank to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Big bank. You look at Michigan. D'Antonio's big bank. You look at, Michigan State. You look at Izzo. He's big bank. Joe Paterno was the bank. Art Browse got them to build a new stadium at Baylor.
That's right.
Big bank, Charles.
Boone Pickens
so
put the money up.
when you start sitting here and saying, what do you do to curtail domestic violence?
Yeah.
Money curtails it all, Charlton.
Yeah.
The women are not the breadwinners in these scenarios. They are there dependent on these husbands to take care of them and their families.
Yeah.
And so she dropped the ball as much as Urban Meyer dropped the ball.
Yeah.
She has a phone in the house, I'm going to assume.
Yep.
Has a cell phone, I assume. And I think she had at least one finger on left or right hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you only got to push on the phone 3 times.
Yeah.
911.
Yeah.
It's easy to blame Urban Meyer. And I'm not trying to let Urban Meyer off here, Charlton. I'm not trying to let any man off that commits this. But I also want the women to understand they have to be somewhat culpable in this. Even though their abuse is the violent end,
yeah,
they are an enabler, Charlton, when they refuse to call 911. Wasn't like she was shackled in the house all day, Charlton. And when the incident where he broke out the window in the parking lot after a game in front of all the other wives, and campus police were there, she had the opportunity to press charges, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because the insurance companies, I guarantee you, they wanted to know how the glass was broken.
It just broke itself. They said lightning did it.
Snapped.
Lightning did it.
So this environment's been going on for a decade.
Yeah.
And I would like to see her phone log, Charlton. How many phone calls she made over this 10-year period. And like I said, I'm not being an advocate for Smith beating his wife here.
No, not at all.
But I'm saying right now, for 10 years, in all the phone calls you made over this 10-year span, how many calls did you make to the police?
Yeah.
You have that ability. At some point, you can't be receptive to somebody abusing you. You got to say, enough is enough. Jennifer Lopez did a movie, Enough, where she was tired of being abused and she got out of an abusive situation.
Yeah. These
women, Charlton, you can't be comfortable with the type of money that you're being allowed to have in the lifestyle of the home, saying that that's worse being abused. You have children. These children grow up in that environment. Do they become abusers? Do they seek, if you have a daughter, will she seek out an abuser because that's what her mother has showed her, that it's okay to be abused in a relationship, so that's the type of male she's seeking. You have a young boy. He's watching his dad abuse his mother, so that's where he's going to go as a young man. Is he going to abuse somebody in a relationship? You're teaching your children how to be violent and accept violence in their lives, Charlton.
Yeah.
So I want to, as they do this investigation, and they talk about phone records with text messages and pictures, look at the phone log. See how many times she called 911.
Wow.
That's just as important as everything else.
That's important. I remember going back to the O.J. Simpson trial. I'm not saying this had the same outcome, but it could have. Because when the O.J. trial happened, they brought up all the stuff in the past that people knew about, whether there was abuse or not, how someone got a swollen eye, a cut lip, a cut chin, bruise on the forehead. How did that happen? Oh, I slipped and fell. I walked into a door. No, that happens because someone's doing something to you. And if it comes out, the only thing that stops someone from doing wrong is to call the police. At least when they got handcuffs on, they have a different attitude. So for the women who think, well, he said he's going to hurt me if I call somebody, or he said he's going to hurt me if I tell on him, all of those guys that do that, they all have a different tone when they have handcuffs on. So don't feel sorry for the guy that's choking you out and beating you up. And make sure that you call 911 to keep yourself safe and even for people who love you. I want to draw another contrast too. What do we say to a university that says we will hire anybody if they can win, when they had the 41 players that had their arrest records back, or at least run-ins with police at Florida? Not just Urban Meyer. There's a lot of coaches who have that in their background. Now, if you're going to get a job and you've had the police called on you 41 times, for whatever reason, 41 times, that's a lot. Most people won't have that happen in their lifetime. Well, his players had that happen in his short stint at Florida. I know they won a national championship, so maybe they overlooked two of them. So that gets people to look the other way, what you call a blind eye. So what's the culpability, Big C, of the next school, even if it's Ohio State decided to keep him, where their best lawyer is going to say, well, we're going to tell you what you should listen to. Don't worry about what you hear. Don't worry about the blood you saw in that lady's hand when the guy that they gave a raise to was beating her up. Don't worry about that. We're going to paint the picture for you and what you want to hear. What do we say to those schools that give Urban Meyer or somebody else who has that same type of shady background a job? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, you talking about the NCAA?
Well, I guess that
makes sense. You got to eliminate 50% of the coaches in the business.
Wow.
They're not clean. I mean, it's just like with the gambling, the paying players, under the table, hiding incidents that occur all the time. Charlton, half of the campus around the country have something that's been hidden. Every time something comes up, it's nothing that happened today. You find one of these incidents, Charlton, where it happened today. In the last 15 years in college football, anything that has come up from a coaching staff, from a player's perspective, it's nothing that has happened today. Okay? It's all been covered up. It's a matter because we have social media and so many media outlets now, Charlton. Things get out. Twitter, texting, all of this. This is what allows it to get out. Don't think that this is a new situation with Urban Meyer or any other coach that this has happened with. Coaches all the time get fired, Charlton. Assistant coaches for DUIs, for assaults. But they're not at a top 10 university. That's what occurs. It's not at a top 10 university. You're going to tell me that Bobby Bowden never had problems at Florida State? It wasn't just Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
That environment just didn't occur with him. These environments have always been at Ohio State. It's not just with Urban Meyer. You can go back to Earl Bruce, Jim Tressel, Woody Hayes, Charlton, a list of coaches at Ohio State. Michigan State is well documented what has occurred there with basketball and football coaching staff. Charlton, even on the West Coast. There's schools out on the West Coast. Even the University of Washington had an incident a couple decades ago.
Yeah.
You know, that got pushed to the side. Charlton, all of these universities have skeletons in their closet. UOP, when you talked about the abolished football out there.
Yeah.
Their basketball program had a sexual assault scandal out there about 7 years ago, Charlton. And this young lady was actually bashed by the university. They had the DNA testing and everything. When they put these players on trial, Charlton, none of these players were convicted.
Wow.
They were suspended. That's all they were. They were suspended. They didn't go to jail. They were suspended. This young lady was shamed so bad, Charlton, and she was a scholarship player. She was a scholarship basketball player. She had to transfer to another school in the Midwest so that she wouldn't be known.
Yeah.
She was the victim, and yet she became the victim secondary from the university, from the legal system, Charlton. Just as I said earlier, big bank, little bank. Little bank is not going to win. If you're not making university money, Charlton, you don't stand a chance. We got all these allegations that occurred at Michigan State over the past several years between the football and basketball program. How much money did these ladies make, Charlton, that were accusing these athletes of these inappropriate incidents?
Yeah.
They weren't making the university anything, Charlton. But these male athletic programs were the big bank part of the university. You're not going to get rid of the revenue of a university. We talked about Lawrence Phillips. When he started getting in trouble at Nebraska, he was dating a volleyball player, Charlton.
Yeah.
He beat her up on several occasions. Police called. He was arrested. He was gotten out by Tom Osborne.
Tom
All
Osborne.
people.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne used his power in Nebraska to facilitate this young lady being beat, keeping this man there, Charlton, allowing him to keep his criminal activity going. So when we talk about big bank, little bank, and everybody knows how big the bank is in Cornhusker football back when Tom Osborne was the coach.
Yeah, it's huge.
Joe Paterno at Penn State, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was Penn State University, Charlton. He had so much money he could build a library there at Penn State.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't going to tear that down like they did his statue. The library is still there.
Still there.
But, you know, he made the university so much money. He's the reason why that stadium got expanded, Charlton. So that's the big bank scenario. The boosters would give him whatever he wanted. Fundraisers, Joe Paterno got it done. Could any of those little boys get the money that Joe Paterno was getting that Jerry Sandusky was abusing? So when we sit here and we try to find a way to stop domestic violence, Charlton, you can't outdo the money, but you also, the victim has to help the cause by calling 911.
Yeah.
Not just once, call it all the time, Charlton.
Yeah.
Call it all the time.
And for everyone, men and women, we know that if you call it, they got to show up. That's what people need to know. They got to show up. They got to do an investigation. If the bad person, I'm talking to the women who are being beaten up right now, and nobody knows it because they do it, they punch you in the stomach so people can't see the busted eye or the busted lip. They punch you in the back so people can't see you got a swollen forehead. Or they slap you around in your legs because you can wear long pants for that. But a lot of those abusers, they don't punch you in the face anymore. They beat you in the body parts. And you sit there and you're embarrassed and you don't tell anybody. At least just call 911. Just do that. They got to show up. Believe me, He will change his tune when he has handcuffs. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Benmark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro player, a collegiate player, a high school player, or your mom and pop soccer leagues. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So Zach Smith, at Talk About White Skin Privilege, Tim Wise. People should Google two things. Google the movie 13th by, I think her name is DuVernay, and also Google 10 Wise. He wrote several books about white skin privilege. Not one of these white guys that you can Google their names from Michigan State, Ohio State, Florida, Baylor, even some of the schools you've heard about throughout other conferences. They don't have a history of being racially profiled. But they do have a history of battering women, but they're part of that good old boy network and they get away with it. You don't have to take what I'm saying for a fact. I just want you to Google it on your phone. Don't get upset about it. Just Google the people who cry the most about, we don't want this taking the knee for the flag, and we don't want to hear any of this social consciousness garbage. Just play sports. Google those people who are saying that. Google their backgrounds. I guarantee you'll find that they have a closer link to domestic violence and assault than you want to believe. And you can just Google that. Don't take my word for it. I do want to say, as we look at how we have this open forum for women, it's a time for women to be emboldened and for people to start just saying, like Walter Cronkite, just the facts. The facts are on your side. Stand up. Most men are never abused. There are some, but not most. So we'll always stand up for you when we talk about that. Big C, I do want to say tonight, NFL football, as much as I want to see NFL football, do I really want to see the Bears as they introduce the Hall of Fame game to the United States of America? I know they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, but maybe they just had the names sound good, but I thought it would be great to have other teams that could start up the season. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, football is football when it gets to preseason game one.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference who's going to play. You got to get the veterans play maybe a series,
or
maybe two at best. You know, this is the rookie showcase is what it is. We're not looking for the sharpest of football to be played. It's just a matter of them running the clock, get it over with, you know, to be realistic.
Yeah.
This is just an extended practice game when you look for it. You know, every year we're going to get the Hall of Fame game. You know, they've changed the format somewhat. The game used to be played, you know, when the induction ceremony was. You know, the induction ceremony would be that day, the game would be that night.
It used to be Canton, Ohio.
It's changed something to make it more of a week-long affair.
Yeah.
But, you know, these players have only been in camp a couple of weeks, Charlton. How sharp do you expect them to be?
Not too sharp.
You know, not too sharp. So, you know, we're going to get a lot of turnovers, a lot of, you know, missed assignments in this game, Charlton. But, you know, the rookies get a chance to showcase their talent, the first and second-year players also.
Yeah. I think that's important that football, whether people like it or not, I know there's so much talk about should players play, should the parents let the players play. It's just hard for people to agree on it. But I know that it creates a unity. It creates some discipline out of a lot of people. I don't want to have every athlete thrown under the bus just because of what's happening with the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't know if it's something, you talked about Noah and the Ark. Maybe God's using Ohio State, one of the most prominent sports programs in college football in the history of the universe, to bring attention to this. I mean, it's painful, especially if you're that woman who is happening to. So for that young lady, I'm glad she's brave.
The New York Giants, an opportunity. Flagship franchise in the NFL a couple of years ago. Josh Brown, kicker, kicking his wife around for years.
Yeah.
You know, and advocated by the Mayer family, the owners. We're not talking about a university, Charlton.
Yeah.
We're talking about an elite fraternity that there's only 32 members in.
Yeah.
Okay? 32. Not all the universities that play football, and in a couple of years it'll be 788 in the United States that play football. We're talking about a fraternity that only has 32 members.
Yeah.
And one of the flagship members, one of the most respected families in the history of the league, sitting there paying a guy knowing that he's beating up his wife.
Yeah.
So when you say, how do you put an end to domestic violence? I know you constantly use that saying, and I'll come back again. Big bank, little bank. Who had the most money? Did the Mariners have the most money, or did Josh Brown's ex-wife have the most money?
Yeah.
We know that the Mariners had the money. These are the guys who stand in front of the podium when there's something good or bad about the NFL can speak on it, and his voice travels in reveille.
Yeah.
People pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, it's like E.F. Hutton. When the mayor spoke, people listened.
People listen,
so
yeah.
they did not speak against domestic violence. They really have not come out strong against domestic violence. You think about that, Charlton. You have the Mara family of the NFL, the owner of the New York Giants, have never did a PSA against domestic violence.
No.
For the NFL.
That's a good point,
so
Big C.
How do you expect to stop something when you got the guys who are writing the paychecks that won't do PSAs against it?
And you know what? When you think about that, the Mara family, when you look at John Mara, now, Urban Meyer may lose his job because he did not say what he knew, okay? But you look at the Mara family, he knew what he was hiding and covering up, gave his player a $2 million raise. Where's the pushback on Mara? Now, we have so many Americans, and I hope that people pay attention, especially for the women, because a lot of men will say, oh, you know, it's just locker room talk. We've heard that before. But for the women and the men out there and the broadcast brethren that want to push back on the do they stand, do they not stand, do they take a knee, do they not take a knee? Why was there never a protest against the Maras for paying, aiding, and abetting of spousal abuser by the tune of $2 million? Now, how many people have gotten $2 million for beating somebody up outside of a fighter? There are fighters who don't make $2 million for a prize fight. This guy got it for beating up his spouse. Anyone protest the Mara family? No, but they protest some of those players who took a knee to bring attention to it. Can you talk about the hypocrisy, Big C?
Think about this. Everybody who says that the black players in the NFL are anti-American, who are speaking up against social injustice. So what they're saying when those black players are speaking up against social injustice is that it's okay to have female injustice in America.
Wow.
Think about that. I mean, if you want to do a cross-reference...
That's a good point. That's a good point.
It's okay for these athletes to do female injustice, and you know, let's praise the guy.
Yeah.
Because he kicked the field goal. So, and not only did he kick the field goal, he went on after the game and kicked his wife.
Wow.
That's okay. You know, because what they'll say, well, he did not do it in the stadium.
Yeah.
So it's acceptable. So these black players who come to the stadium and take a stance against Josh Brown beating up his wife, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Because the white players are not doing it. Only the black players are doing it. So we don't want to hear it. It's not a time and a place for that. Just like we get here at Ohio State with Urban Meyer and Zach Smith. It's not a time or a place to talk about this.
Yeah.
You know, we got to find a way to save Urban Meyer. We got to find a way to save every coach that protects a guy from beating up his wife.
Yeah.
You know, because it doesn't involve the game. Just like the black players taking a knee during the national anthem, holding a fist up in solidarity, it didn't involve the game.
Yeah.
The national anthem doesn't involve the game. They don't play the national anthem during the game, Johnson.
Yeah.
They don't. Let's be realistic about that. Do any professional team sell tickets for you to come watch the national anthem?
No.
Ask yourself that as a fan who wants to say it's wrong for the black players to stand or take a knee.
Well, I think...
Ask yourself, when was the last time you bought a ticket because a team said, we're going to have a national anthem contest at the stadium for 3 hours, for 2 hours, and we're selling tickets at $75 a pop. Come on out.
Yeah.
See how many packed houses you have.
Well, I think, and last thing we'll see on that before we touch on a little bit more football, how many women or even men are more offended by African-American players calling attention to end racism, sexual assault, domestic violence? How many people are more offended by that than you are by seeing this woman bloodied, being beaten up by a man for over 10 years, and everybody acting like, well, you know, but we still can't get the coach in trouble?
Let me tell you something. Everybody's offended by the black players doing that. When you look at mainstream society, they are offended. Why? Because they're not the car that's driving the engine, okay?
Yeah.
It's the black players bringing attention to it. And how can black athletes in society tell us that we're wrong? That's the problem. If there was a white drive, Charlton, out there saying from the white athletes saying this is no longer going to happen.
Me too.
We're not going to tolerate social injustice any longer.
Yeah.
That's Americana, Charlton. You know, they're respecting the flag, they're respecting the military and all of that.
Yeah.
Because these are the guys that are speaking for. But since they've been quiet, And when we look at all this domestic violence that's occurring with these coaches and these athletes, Charlton, and you look at the eugenic look that they have, okay? They're looking like the guys who are saying, we don't want to hear these guys protest against the flag.
Yeah, I heard.
If you think about that, Zach Smith looks like the guy that's saying, we don't want to see these black players protest.
Yeah.
Josh Brown looks like the guy that says, we don't want to see these black players protest.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I tell you what, we will always bring attention to it because I know there's a way that we can fix it. We may not be able to stop it, but just like a fire, you can put it out slowly, but surely you can put it out if you keep the attention on it. I do want to just say a little bit about this game tonight with the Bears and the Ravens. It's good for football to be back. Obviously, I still think college football has garnered more of the attention at this time, but it should be a game where you just see it's just getting people back in shape again, and hopefully the Bears and the Ravens tonight in Canton, Ohio will have a good showing to start the football season, whether people take a knee or not. I just think we got to have that. Women are more important than whether someone takes a knee or not. I do want to just look at a little bit of Matt Scherzer, Big C, in Major League Baseball, becoming the first pitcher to 15 wins in the major leagues. Now, that's saying something to be the first one to 15 wins, and we're just not far out of the All-Star break. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, and he plays for the Washington Nationals, so when you think about a bright spot for that organization, Charlton, it's been Scherzer all year long. I mean, this guy has been a phenomenal pitcher ever since he's come over in a trade a couple of years ago. And, you know, they just haven't had the rest of the team perform at that level. But Scherzer, you know, with the win tonight, will be the first to 15 on the regular season and tops in line for the Cy Young Award, Charlton, at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good showing by him. Baseball is still, it's like everything's still taking a back seat to what's happening with Ohio State. But I know it's a teaching moment. We just got to make sure we get a good grade on it. And even stepping back into the world of baseball, I know coming up in August, Barry Bonds will have his jersey retired at AT&T Park in San Francisco. And I remember he was a guy that you always, no matter what you were doing, when Barry Bonds came up to bat, people paused so they could see, is he going to hit another home run? And I know that Hank Aaron had some thoughts about what he did it clean, and Barry Bonds, you know, did it clean too, allegedly, depending on what you believe, and people can say what they want to say. But I still think it's a classy thing that the San Francisco Giants, they're struggling a little bit right now, but for them to make that announcement coming up, I believe is about another week or two in San Francisco, right around the 10th for Barry Bonds. And then you think about Scherzer getting the first 15 wins. I wonder what would be your thoughts. Any player or any pitcher going up against Barry Bonds, you're not going to get a lot of wins when Barry Bonds is someone you got to pitch to. Even though they pitched around Barry Bonds more than anybody during his day, he still became the home run king. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that was the respect of the players that he had. You know, anybody can talk about any era in sports, whether it's clean, whether it's not clean, whether somebody had an advantage, whether somebody used a cork bat. And the only time you knew somebody used a cork bat is if the bat broke. So.
And then he said it wasn't my bat.
It wasn't his bat. He picked up somebody else's bat.
Kansas City Road,
yeah. Players, Charlton, not just, you know, use substance or whatever, but they use illegal apparatuses when they played. I mean, you think about pitchers, Charlton, who use Vaseline when they're pitching, and other substance to make the ball move awkwardly. So when you sit there, and I'm serious about that, people say that players were juiced, you know, taking substance to make them stronger. But no one is backlashing at these pitchers, Charlton, who use these illegal substances on the mound, who are in the Hall of Fame. Think about that. There's this renowned pitcher named Gaylord Perry.
Yeah.
Okay? Gaylord Perry pitched with a half dozen teams in Major League, ended up with 300 wins as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Made it to the Hall of Fame. Charles was suspended on multiple occasions by Major League Baseball during his career for using illegal substances, Vaseline, pine tar, a nail file, all of these things, Charles.
Wait, hold on. Where was he throwing the nail file, or was he using the nail file to scratch the ball? How do you use the nail file?
Scuffing the ball up, Charles, and having sandpaper on his glove. All these things to alter the smoothness of the ball, Charles, which will make it move.
That's
so
funny.
You think about that. When they talk about players juicing, using cork bats, and they're going to keep them out of the Hall of Fame for that.
Yeah.
And most of these players, Charlton, were minority. There were a few Anglo players, but most of them were minorities. We've been talking about Sosa, Bonds, Hernandez. You know, go back, look in the Hall of Fame, Charlton, at some of the players that were pitchers.
Yeah.
That were mainstream pitchers, Charlton.
Yeah.
That used illegal substance on the mound all the time. And no one said, well, they were bad for baseball. They shouldn't be in because they tainted the game.
Yeah.
It's all about perception, physical perception of a person, Charlton.
Did you
whether
recall,
you accept what they do?
Big C, do you recall that movie? I think it was called Major League. Had Charlie Sheen, and they had a couple of other good actors. And I'll never forget how
Robin Benson,
the
guy who does the All-State commercial, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was in there. Hesbeth.
Yeah.
He was Serrano.
Yep.
Many great actors in this movie, Charlton, and just a great movie overall.
Yeah, and I remember they had an old pitcher, and he was telling the skipper, I don't have much left. I'm giving him all I got, and he was putting all kind of stuff on the baseball, just trying to get the baseball not to make good connection with the bat. And then there was Hainsworth, his position. They were going to argue who was better, Jesus Christ or something about his voodoo dolls, or was it Jesus or a voodoo doll? Who was the most respected in the clubhouse? I think that movie chronicled the funny side, the flip side of baseball, makes you laugh, but realizing some guys really do live that way. They're superstitious, and some guys don't even step on the chalk lines, Big C. Some of the managers, when they're coming out to make a change, they don't even step on the chalk lines, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, baseball is a game of ritual.
Yep.
You keep to what got you there. They feel like you said, you know, stepping on the chalk line, kissing your back, you know, wearing your hat a certain way, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, your gloves, you got to tighten them, loosen them a certain amount of times. Even though it's the same grip every time, Charlton.
And all that spit on the mound when the pitchers have the chew or they spit. There's some guys that are notorious for spitting. So a lot of guys would use the chew so they could spit like every 10 seconds. Some of that spit landed on the ball, Big C. They didn't get called for spitting on the ball or juicing the ball, but that Copenhagen just got on that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, all the time, Charlton. This is what I mentioned about players.
Yeah.
You know, touching the bill of their cap, got some Vaseline up under the bill. You know, touching inside their belt buckle, got Vaseline in there, Charlton, got pine tar. Whatever they need. I remember Big Papi prior to his retirement from Boston.
Yeah.
Every time he got ready to swing, he's spitting his hand, he's rubbing his gloves together. You know, nobody want to shake Big Papi's hand.
Not even now. They don't want to shake his hand now, Big C. I think that's funny. But baseball's like that. You either love it or you don't. It's still a great game. But good to see Scherzer having success. And, again, for Barry Bonds to see what they're going to do for him in San Francisco. That's the reason they have AT&T Ballpark, because of Barry Bonds and what he did. When they were about to leave Candlestick Park down in San Francisco, they were actually headed to Tampa Bay. And some good old boys got together with their money. As you said, money talks, and they were able to save them. So congratulations for Scherzer and all the good old boys that are throwing pitches around Major League Baseball. I do want to take just a chance to say we talked about it yesterday. I know that Tiger Woods, I still say he's going to win a major probably at least every year for the next 5 years. I'm sure in the next 5. He's only 42. Now, the great Jack won his last major at 46. So Tiger still is just 4 years off his pace. So if he even wins one a year over the next 4 years, when he reaches 46, he'll tie Jack. I know he'll win more than one a year because he's going to get that swing back. Again, he's just less than a year out of surgery. But for he and the good old boy Phil Mickelson to announce that they're gonna do what golf should have done a long time ago. Take your best players and put them out there on exhibition for the public. They're going to do it around the holidays. Big C, I think that's one of the greatest gestures in the history of golf. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this match play thing, Charlton, has been done before, but to have these two iconic golf figures going after each other. And the thing about it, Charlton, once this is over, is that you got locker room chatter forever.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
You know, that between Tiger and Phil, whoever wins this, Charlton, you got a lifetime trophy of locker room chatter.
Yeah.
Saying that I own you.
Yeah.
And think about it, for $10 million, yes, you do own somebody.
Yeah, you can buy a lot.
You know, the landscape for this, Charlton, would be in a place like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
They will set this up to be played in Las Vegas so that everybody can bet on every shot.
Yep.
Think about that. You'll be able to bet on every shot in the casino.
Yeah.
So, the money will be flowing. And to have a national stage like this,
yes,
you said this will be prime time broadcast. You got to understand, Charlton, during that time in November, Thanksgiving,
yeah,
you got college football rivalries going on.
Yeah.
You got NFL rivalries going on, Charlton, that weekend. So you think about if a golf heads-up match can steal the spotlight from the NFL and college football,
yeah,
that lets you know how big Tiger and Phil is on the world landscape.
Yeah, and I think this is like when Michael Jackson got together to tour We Are the World. I know people say that Tiger and Phil aren't winning every weekend or every month like they did back in the day, but they're still the names that will carry this game. They carry the world of golf just like Jack and Ernie did it back in the day. And I think golf is smart to encourage this because it gets people into the game. It gets people something to banter about and laugh and talk about. Everybody knows that they have this thing called competition, and it's friendly wager competition, Big C. So we know it's important for the golf universe, and I'm glad to see that they're going to do something like this for the world of golf. Even today, the Bridgestone, the WGC Bridgestone Invitational Firestone Country Club, Tiger Woods is -4, tied for 14th. Big Phil, -4, tied for 14th. The leader's Ian Poulter, -8. You have Stanley at -7. Ricky Fowler, I guess he's finished stealing grass for commercials, insurance commercials, Big C. But just hearing that Tiger and Phil are going to be paired together and nobody else going to be around to get in the way, Big C, that's like introducing a cool glass of moonshine to some crushed ice, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's what we live for.
Yep.
We live for to have a highlight show throughout an entire broadcast.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I mean, when you think about the Tiger Army, the Phil Army of fans that are out there, you love one, you hate the other.
Yeah.
You're indifferent. But television, this is must-see television. Just like the heads-up match, Charlton. And I forgot to mention that the NFL will be playing at that time as well as the NBA.
Yeah.
So you'll have these two individuals competing against four major sports.
Yeah.
And think about that. They will dominate four major American sports
they will.
that are traditionally played at that time, Charlton, that weekend. The NBA, NHL hockey, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights might have a home game that weekend. You never know.
I guarantee you. Yeah.
You got the NFL and college football. We all know that those games will be played.
Oh, yeah. And what you just said makes so much sense. Every major league athlete, every professional athlete, collegiate athlete, they're going to have on that smartphone in their hand. And for everybody that walks around, you probably have a cell phone in your hand, but not a TV set. If you're not next to a TV set, there will be people, Big C, that will have their smartphones open so they can see what Tiger and Phil are doing. And if golf can't capitalize on that, then turn in your golf flag and just hang it up. Caddyshack will even be watching. Chevy, them good old boys, Big C. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great for the world of golf. And I want to see Bridgestone. I'd love to see Tiger win this week. And I think he's won 9 times there in his history. They haven't changed the course since he started winning. But whether they change the course or not, we've all heard of tiger-proofing the golf course. Even the Masters, attrition like no other has done that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think they've not just tiger-proof, they've golf-proof most golf courses with the length that they have now, Charlton. We see Dustin Johnson sitting at a -1. He won the Canadian Open last week, and he's the longest hitter on the tour, Charlton. You think about Dustin Johnson. He needs a driver and a pitching wedge normally. He drives the ball some 400 yards periodically.
Wow.
And so he's always within range of a pitching wedge to get on the green, Charlton. But he's at -1, so he's 7 strokes behind the leader.
Yeah.
So that lets you know how challenging all golf courses are, is that here it is, you could win a tournament last week, and you can't even get into the top 10 the following round in a tournament, the next tournament that you're in.
Yeah, and you look at Poulter being 8 under, and then Stanley being 7 under, Fowler at 7 under, but still Tiger and Phil, they get more credibility and more publicity than anybody, and that's why it's almost like the the person, the star athlete on campus, or the beauty model, the beauty queen. They all want to emulate that person. You either love them or hate them. Just like the guys that may go to the gym. They may bench press 500 or 600 pounds, and you might love or hate what they do, but you pay attention. Tiger and Phil will move the needle. I'm just going to say this, that Tiger and Phil playing that little friendly wager, Big C, that will move the needle more than any sport that weekend. And we know all the major sports will be playing. That's how important it is to have them do that. I want to just close out the show today.
Well, I'll take something back on that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I can go out and play a pickup basketball with my dog, and I think I'll move the field a little bit.
Does your dog win is the question, though, Big C. Does your dog beat you?
I'm going to dominate him.
Is it that dog that your neighbor stole and cut his tail off and dyed his hair blonde and said, that's not your dog, even though he answered to your name, Big C? Have you got the dog back yet, Big C?
Well, we're going to play that pickup game for that. If I win, he can come home.
Okay, that's funny. I think that the guy should give your dog back. You could take somebody's dog, shave the tail, and bleach his hair blonde. It don't mean it's not your dog. I just think that's crazy. College football comes out with their rankings. We've been talking college football a long time. It's the usual suspects. Alabama ranked number 1, followed by Clemson. I wonder what will happen with Ohio State. Will they take, it's all going to depend on will they bring back Urban Meyer and bring more around their players, asking them what their thoughts on the coach if they bring back Urban Meyer. We know that's always a distraction. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, like I said, there's a negotiation going on right now about a suspension, not a firing, not a suspension.
Yeah.
How do we pay off somebody? How can we suspend his coach using NFL rules, 3 to 4 games, conduct detrimental, not disclosure, whatever terminology you want to put behind it?
Yeah.
But it's not that easy taking away from all the money that somebody generates for you and the recognition that somebody generates for you, Charlton.
Yeah, well,
this is that big bank theory. You got to look at it. You got to be realistic about where we are in the sports world. You're talking about sports galvanizes society.
Yeah.
Sports galvanizes.
Yeah.
Sports galvanizes recognition. And if Ohio State is not winning, and Michigan is sitting there wanting to prance on Ohio State's position, just like Michigan State and Penn State, Wisconsin. You got to look at those 5 powerhouse teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's it. 5 powerhouse teams. Ohio State has led the regime, Charlton, for the last several years.
Yeah.
They don't want to relinquish that. You can't be guaranteed when you replace a head coach, Charlton, where are you going to be as a program? Look how far they fell when they got rid of Art Browse.
Yeah.
Look how far Penn State fell when they got rid of Joe Paterno, Charlton. And the list goes on. Look at Texas since they got rid of Mack Brown.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything down there, and there was some scandal with Mack Brown down in Texas.
Yeah.
What has USC done since Pete Carroll left? We know the scandals are going out there.
Yeah.
What about Oregon after Chip Kelly? Nothing, Charlton.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy to replace a high-profile coach, even though we know that football is football, Charlton. Some people just make you win.
Yeah, they make you win. Georgia looking at number 4, depending on the polls. Washington, number 5. Wisconsin, the Badgers, number 6. And then Wisconsin used to be known as a slow team, but they really built a good defense. Very difficult to score on. Oklahoma coming in at number 7. The Sooners, you go back to the days of Barry Switzer and Stoops, and they've always at least played in some coaching or form before a national championship. That may not change. Penn State back in the swing of things. And some schools, some polls have them as high as number 8. And then Miami, of course, rounding out the top 10. Notre Dame jumping in at number 11. So it just feels right. Football starting tonight with the Hall of Fame game. You have the storied franchise, the Chicago Bears, playing the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of atmosphere, a lot of things talking about in the world of sports. And then with golf and baseball. And even the talk of basketball still with King James coming to L.A. It's an exciting year for the world of sports. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bunny Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Talking where I'm looking forward to in the world of the sports universe and the world of life. I want to teach people to stop domestic violence. Learn how to call 911. I know no one wears that jersey in the sports world, Charlton, because it's 3 digits. But when you want to sit there and be a standby in your own life of being abused, Charlton, you have to find a way personally to stop it. And that is by calling law enforcement. We think about all the frivolous phone calls against minorities for walking down the street, for barbecuing in their driveway,
ordering coffee,
for having a picnic in the park. Call 911 on an abuser. Don't just pick it up because you see somebody that's not the complexion of you and they make you uncomfortable. Call 911 on that person who is making you uncomfortable physically because they're abusing you, Charlton.
I think that's very well said. And some things are more important than the game. And speaking of more important than the game, every Monday to Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. Man or woman going through that garbage, if you know about it, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.